Well, hi there. Back with another book review. One more dude. Okay. All right. Let's try it this way. I don't want all the acoustics to get fucked up, and I'm still working on that. So today we're going to look at the book Healing the Addicted Brain. Now, I read this book after a slip up and trying to kind of understand what was going on and kind of curb that shit. Let me set that there. That might be a little bit better. So I want to kind of go into that. Also, you'll notice I'm at my art zone, not my usual spots. So the introduction on it basically talks about how it's a disease. I still disagree that it's a disease, but here we are on it. So going into this book, it starts talking about kind of what goes on and what happens to your brain as you continue to use. They look at all of the drugs, but I'm going to focus primarily just on the alcohol portion, since that was my jam and that's where my passion is. So after you get past chapter 1 and all the science stuff with the brain images and everything, it talks about changing your thoughts from pro-addiction to pro-recovery. And they call them thought distortions in it. And when we are in active addiction, we have these kind of distorted thoughts that go through our heads on it. And these thoughts trigger emotions, the emotions trigger behavior gets us drunk. So they're talking about switching those over. So situation, thought, emotion, behavior on it. And I've got a lot of this highlighted, so I actually hit what I want to hit on it. So some of these thoughts is, like if I don't have a drink right now, I'll die from these horrible cravings or withdrawals. They'll probably invent a pill soon that cures addiction. I can't relax without drugs or alcohol. There's nothing wrong with me, it's everybody else. I can stop whenever I want. But these are inaccurate thinking that they're talking about, and they talk about how it's this all or nothing thinking that you've got going on, and they haven't broken down on these: need for distraction or comfort, need for instant gratification, overgeneralizing, catastrophizing, rationalization, personal ineffectiveness, confusing your behavior with your worth. And then they talk about like challenging these thoughts on it. And it says to ask these 6 questions, which I wish I did, but what concrete factual evidence supports or refutes this thought? Are there any other ways I can view the situation? What's the worst thing that could happen? What's the best thing that could happen? Realistically speaking, what is most likely going to happen? Is this thought inaccurate? In which case, which category? And it goes into more of these, and it gives you all these like little worksheets that you can work through while you're doing it. I thought it was very helpful. I found this book immensely helpful on it. Additional questions that you can ask. Am I focusing on irrelevant factors? Am I overlooking my strengths? How would I look if I how would I look at this if I wasn't feeling so bad? And I'll give examples of these things as we move forward, and I'll try not to use the most recent things that happened, but we'll go from there on it. So the number one thing on this is practice. You know, when I first relapsed, it was the world is over. You know, I didn't want to quit back in May of 2020. I didn't want to quit. When I went to my first rehab, I wanted to go to rehab, get a pat on the back, and you know, have everything go back to the status quo and drink every once in a while. Just, you know, I was just doing it too much on it, but I'm not able to. The next thing that it talks about is combating triggers. So what are triggers? Triggers is an idea, concept, person, place, or thing, or emotional state that stimulates the urge to drink, right? So they talk about people, places, and things, events, objects, behaviors, activities, emotions, and feelings, uncomfortable situations, or uncomfortable body sensations. So people, places, events, those really don't bug me that much. It's behaviors and activities and emotions and feelings. You know, in the most recent one, I had constantly been relapsing over and over and over and over, and I couldn't figure out why, but I was in this like limbo of will they, won't they, is he gonna get his shit together, is it, like on the cusp. And you know, when I wasn't being, I guess, properly, what's the word I want to use? Because I didn't want to get a pat on the back. I didn't want, I guess, acknowledgement that I'm trying. You know, like I'm trying to get back to the way I was and the way things were. And like I couldn't, because I let somebody rent space in my head that told me that I wasn't good enough. And you know, that really kind of threw me off. You know, like I wasn't good enough for their daughter, and that I was trash. And you know, it really kind of angered me and threw me off, and those emotions and, you know, the feelings of it. And then there at the end, I had this like impending doom of like, it's going to happen anyway, so you might as well speed it up and drink on it. Uncomfortable body sensations, like they list stomach discomfort. You know, I've in my past I have drank because my stomach hurt, and ironically, drinking is what caused it, but drinking also made it go away, and it just kind of kept me in that loop. They go into cravings, saying that cravings are extremely hard to control when they're in full swing, but once you understand how and why they happen, you'll be much better prepared to ward them off, or at least nip them in the bud. Then they go on and talk about kind of the example with like Pavlov's dog. So with Pavlov's dog, if you're not familiar, he would ring a bell every time he fed his dogs, and over time he would just ring the bell, and the dog's mouth would start to salivate, thinking that it was about to be fed. Morbid fun fact, he was from the Soviet Union, and he fed his dogs underneath tanks. And after they got conditioned to go and seek the food underneath the tank, they strapped bombs to them, and they would just ring the bell, and the dogs would run out and go underneath the tanks, and they'd blow them up. This was during World War II, by the way. But that's the whole reason behind the experiment. Kind of a morbid fun fact, but we're in that situation. When I hear cans crack, I start to salivate. And I slam cans. Doesn't matter if it's Coke, water, beer. I mean, hell, they could put vodka in a can, and as soon as it cracks, I would slam that shit, right? Then it goes into charting your triggers, kind of figuring out what happened, and avoiding the triggers. Now, once you know, you can avoid, right? So they talk about, now that you know what your triggers are, you can avoid them, right? Sorry for the weird little cut. Obviously, I am not in my apartment. I need to be around people in my apartment. It's just me, and I have had a ton of trouble making friends down there. So without a girlfriend, partner, or friends, and hell, even AA, like I've got AA for an hour and 23 hours to myself. We all know what's gonna happen. Which, by the way, a trigger for me. Too much time on my hands. So I avoid it by making these videos, painting these miniatures, and playing video games. But I'm around people and I have an opportunity to be social and do something else other than what I'm doing now. So moving forward on that, they talk about extinguishing your triggers. And I want to check something real quick, so bear with me. Okay, sorry. I needed to double check. I've done this before, and I left it in slow-mo, and so everything was like this. So they talk about extinguishing the triggers. So the reason you take the power away from them. Basically, it's replacement therapy, because they give the technical terms, but where your memories and emotions are stored are the same place, and your reward system sends everything. Essentially, it's all kind of connected. You feel joy. Joy reminds you of that time that you were drunk. That time you were drunk, it kind of all goes together on it. But given time doing replacement, going for a run or playing video games instead of, drinking when you're kind of feeling bad, you learn to associate running and going to run to feel better as opposed to going and drinking on it. Then they go into the craving crushers, talking. There's a reason why AA always says call your sponsor when you're feeling like drinking, and talking logically through it with somebody helps. It is what it is. The next thing that they talk about on it is distracting yourself. This is what I primarily do. I will go for a run, I'll play video games, I'll do my art, I'll try and get into something. I'll listen to music. There's a reason why I listen to so much lo-fi, is it's so low stimulating that I'm not kind of like amped up, If I'm listening to like death metal and screamo music and for example, Disturbed's Down with the Sickness. I have a lot of memories associated with that, with my childhood, and a lot of anger, so I avoid that song at all costs. All costs. Here's a recent one that I picked up was using flashcards. So on one side, put the 4 most positive things that would happen if you stayed sober. And on the other side, put the 4 worst things that would happen if you drank. And just look at them. Next time you feel like drinking, take a look at them. I only have one negative thing on the worst thing that can happen to me on my side, and it just says more of the same. This shit sucks. I don't need to list out 4 reasons. It's just more of what happened. Then it goes into using stress management techniques. I'm not very good at this because I distract myself and I run away from my problems, literally. So we're going to skip over that one. Visualizing. If you can visualize, it says visualize yourself resisting the craving. Chances are you can turn that visualization into a reality. Close your eyes and imagine in great detail the scene that is pleasant, includes information for your 5 senses. Like close your eyes and try and taste, eating a steak and a baked potato while you're watching TV on your favorite TV show, which right now is Louder Milk for me, and you're just relaxing. It's just you, your dog, and the steak. Fucking A, right? Then they also have try and imagine negative scenarios. And one in here, it says, my patient imagined shooting IV heroin at his grandmother's house, passing out with the needle in his arm and his grandmother discovering him. But anyways, it's the trigger, thought, craving, behavior, action. Is kind of what they get into. They go into the medications to help initiate and help maintain recovery on it. They talk about the Vivitrol and naltrexone as something that helps with it. I am very anti-naltrexone and Vivitrol. I always have been. I have tried it. I have tried them together, and the result was the same. I just kept drinking on it. Vivitrol blocks the high, but keeps you drunk. If you've ever had 12 beers deep and you try and stand up, you're gonna fall over. I've heard of people getting DUIs on Vivitrol and naltrexone because they didn't think they were drunk, but they blew over when they got pulled over. So I am very anti Vivitrol, Sinclair method, all of that. I really don't think doing the same thing and just not getting a result out of it is a good idea on it. And when I did it, I just drank on it. That's all there was to it. Then the next thing that they go into and they talk on this is Campril. For reasons they don't really know why, apparently Campril has been shown to start to repair the brain. And they say that the repairing process can take 4 months to 2 years, depending on how heavily you drink. I know for me, it was about 120 days or 4 months before I started thinking normal. Most of my days were extreme highs or extreme lows, tons of motivation, or just complete apathy on it. So I have not done Campril. When I read it, I honestly thought about trying to figure out a way to get my hands on it, but I'm just at this point here over 2 years into not sobriety, but this journey. I've had over the past 2 years, maybe, I've had 5 relapses, and they've all happened in the last 10 months. So I kind of feel like my brain's good. It's my psychology that's fucked. But there's other medications that they go into here. Antabuse, I never did that. Topamax, which is a mood stabilizer, and some other ones. Then they talk about, opiates, uppers, and everything like that. Medicine for detoxing or withdrawing. I'm not really going to get into too much on those because I don't really know that much about them. I have pretty much done a cold turkey detox every time except for like the seizure. That one, I definitely should have gone to the hospital, but everyone I have cold turkey detoxed. I haven't tapered, I haven't done any of that. Tapering doesn't work for me. Tapering looks like me drinking my entire supply and then going back to get more of my supply for a taper. So going on, they talk about a 12-step recovery program. Now, if you don't know, I do AA. Do AA. That's weird. So I'm a big proponent of it. I do think it does have its pitfalls, but overall it's good. Yes, the success rate isn't the greatest, but you got to keep in mind most of these people are court ordered, or they're dancing around the rooms and they're not serious. Those who actually want to get better do get better. I have seen it time and time again. There's also smart recovery. I don't know anything about it. I've tried to go to a couple of meetings and nobody was there, and almost everybody that I've interacted with that does do smart is a complete asshole to me and talked down on me for believing in a God. So, not really that interested in it. But the 12-step programs, we all know them. We also know that not every AA group is the same. So if you don't like that one, try a different one. There's bound to be several in your community. And if all of those don't work, I don't know what to tell you, my guy. But they talk about the 12 steps, going to meetings, getting a sponsor, types of meetings, speaker meetings, which are my favorite, topic meetings, which they pick something out of the book and then they obviously talk about it. Step or tradition meetings, those are kind of fun. And then the big book meetings where they just basically it's a book study where you try and hear when you go to these and you hear people talk about these things, they're sharing their opinion of what they got out of it, not this is what it is. And anybody that tells you to do that, you need to let it roll off your back on it. But anyways, moving on, they talk about dealing with difficult emotions. When you first start getting sober, you're going to go through a lot of ebbs and flows, and I strongly encourage that you keep a mood tracker so you can look at it. For me, I would rate my day on a scale of 1 to 10, with a 1 being rioting in the streets, a 10 being a parade thrown in my honor. During my first 90 days, I had some ones and I had some nines. After about 120 days in, I kind of lingered around an 8.5 or a 7.5. I apologize, I misspoke. But every once in a while, I would dip down into the sixes. And depression is a real thing. If you have low energy, you're overeating, having sad thoughts, stopping normal activities such as working, cleaning the house, losing interest in your careers, difficulty sleeping, losing interest in sex, increased thoughts of drinking and using, stopping your exercise program, which, by the way, exercising is going to help you cure your depression. Guarantee it. Don't care. Don't want to argue. I know you don't want to do it, but it's going to make you feel better. Trust me. Going on, it talks about how to manage your depression, then making a plan, sticking with it. Talks about anxiety. How many times have I seen those posts on Reddit where people talk about how they have such anxiety over like the things they've done in the past and how can they face people. This is anxiety, and I guarantee you that nobody is thinking about you that intensely. You're not that special. It took me a long time to figure out that I wasn't that special either. But that 8th grade girl that you were a jerk to, she ain't thinking about you. Hell, your last girlfriend isn't thinking about you anymore. Like, people move on, and they move on rather quickly, and you need to remember that. But there's the anxiety cycle. You have stressors, so you have negative thoughts. You have negative thoughts, so you have emotional symptoms or physical symptoms of anxiety. And then you have stressors, which give you negative thoughts. So they want you to challenge your negative thinking. That's how you get out of anxiety. The best way to do that is to keep a journal. That's what they say. Write down. In the beginning, I had to write several times a day. Now I just write at the end of the day, or sometimes I talk to myself and talk out loud. Usually in the car, so nobody thinks I'm insane. Then they talk about anger. Anger was a real big one. Anger is kind of what got me on my relapse. I was really angry at how this person behaved towards me without even bothering to get to know me. It was an insult to my pride, and it was an insult to think that I couldn't play on their field when I'm above them, in my opinion, at least in how I acted and treated people. The anger is really kind of what got me on it. Change your thinking about the situation is really kind of what they go on to it. Try and look at it from the other person's perspective. Yeah, they're a cunt. Ask yourself if these thoughts are accurate. Yeah, they're accurate. 100%. But anyways, moving on this, they talk about avoiding it. Think before you speak to avoid escalating it. Think of happy places or times in the past where you were happy, and kind of move on. Then from there it says take on your responsibility. You can't do the blame game on this. You have to look at your side of the street. What they did is on them, and they have to live with it. And they'll have to answer for it at one point, but you will have to answer for what you did. So, moving on, it talks about how to start to change all of this. Guess what? The number one thing in mood regulating behavior is exercise. Believe it or not, surprise. Soaking in a tub, that's another favorite. Go to a park, read, write, talk to a friend. Photography, working on hobbies, Going on through here, it looks at dual diagnosis. More often than not, a lot of us have either bipolar, manic depressive, BPD, something like that needs to be addressed at the same time of it. Then from there they go into the family, which I'm going to gloss over, and I'm going to get to the good stuff of lapses and relapses. So what's the difference between a lapse and a relapse? A lapse is when you've had a few drinks but your behaviors more or less stay the same as pro-recovery. A relapse, on the other hand, is a full-blown return to the old ways. So, for example, I'm a very honest person, and I'm honest to a fault at times. I'll have a few drinks, and I won't instantly start lying about things, or I'll still maintain my hobbies and my relationships with people. A relapse, I'll be lying about my drinking, passing out, lying about why I was passed out sleeping, lying why I smell this way, asking for money for things that I've already paid for, just so I have money so I can go drink, things like that. When you have a relapse, it is, in my opinion, very important to get back to the way things were recently, not way before. But 9 warning signs of an impending relapse. On here, they list them out: elevated stress, loss of daily structure, neglecting healthy coping skills, behavioral changes, social isolation, loss of judgment and control, change in attitudes, reactivation of denial, and reoccurrence of physical withdrawals. So like they talk on these: insomnia, memory problems, difficulty thinking and focusing, quick temper. Overall on this book is very thorough on it. The last little bit they go into here is nutrition and an exercise program. I highly recommend getting this book or reading it. I'll look to see if I can find an audio version of it for you. So after that, peace out.